What a game. What a game. The Minnesota Timberwolves against the Denver Nuggets. If you didn't watch that ball game, you missed a treat. You're talking about one of the best defensive games ever in the history during a series in a playoff history. Because we had Denver and we had Minnesota. They were tied 3-3, the best of seven. And you're talking about this seventh game was so important because then they'll advance on to the next round. But boy, you're talking about witnessing something that we hadn't seen ever historically, where Minnesota put the clamps down on the reigning champs, Denver Nuggets. Who would have thought that? At halftime, Minnesota was down by 15 points. And I just thought, oh, it's over because you can see the way they were playing. You know, Minnesota, it seems like nothing was working. The defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert, he couldn't stop, the Jokic. He just couldn't stop him. But then again, they are the reigning champs. But then in the third quarter, they were down for about 20 points. I'm talking about the Timberwolves, Minnesota that is. And somehow, maybe it was the coach, maybe it was the players, but boy, they came out with such aggression. Defense. Think about the score. That final score is 98-90, in which during the third quarter being down for about 20 points to rally behind to win by 8. Wow. And not just that, they were playing at Denver. They had the home court advantage. Who would have thought that? I didn't. Because not just that, you had the Joker just receive, the NBA MVP. Now, of course, not to take anything away from him, he was fantastic, as always. And, of course, Murray was too. But, boy, we saw Minnesota clamp down on defense like you never see in the NBA. Why? Because when they get drafted, mainly what are they drafting? Offensive players. That's why, defense has always been a relaxed thing in the NBA over recent years. But, boy, you talking about putting the clamps on them this ball game, that makes the difference. But how did the players fare? Let's take a look at some stats here. It shows here Towns scored 23 points, McDaniels 23, Edwards 16. Oh, Edwards didn't have a great game, but we know he stepped up on defense even more. Because when you got a team, it's not all about you. It's the team. And that's what makes Minnesota and Denver great. Also, you got Hud Gobert, who scored 13, and Conley 10, and their sixth man, Naz Reid, scored 21. He's been, to me, a valuable player during the series. Now, let's look at Denver Nuggets. Murray, he did his normal thing, 35 points. Jokic, he scored 34. Now, here's a surprise. Porter, against the Timberwolves, Porter did not have a great series with them. Now, the team prior to that, he was lighting on fire. But when it came to the Timberwolves, he didn't do so well. Only scored 7 points. But let's look at something else. He did get 9 rebounds and 2 blocks, but his overall performance really, what Porter normally does, is pretty poor. And here's the biggest shocker to me. Aaron Gordon, he only scored 4 points. Playing against the Timberwolves, you're talking about he was a beast. He was just, dunking and aggressive, being powerful, like the 6'9" power forward that he is. He was having a great run against Minnesota until this ball game that determined Game 7 win and will advance to the next round. Now, in case you're like me, when I'm watching sports, I like to know, how tall are the guys? How big are they? I remember in the days of Brent Musburger, the sports announcer for ABC, they used to always have listed the heights, so we'll know, because everybody don't know how tall the basketball player is, okay? Just in case you're wondering, I'm a former college basketball player, so I'm 6'6". But here we are. Let's look at the heights here for Denver. Murray, who's the guard there, he's 6'4". Jokic, who's, the Joker, he's 6'11". Porter, 6'10". Caldwell Pope, he's 6'5". And Aaron Gordon, he's 6'9". Now, of course, you'll look at some other stats. They'll say 6'8", 6'9". Hey, but he's a dominant force. He was a dominant force until this ball game, game 7. Now let's look at Towns of Minnesota. He's 7 feet, but these guys got a big ball club. McDaniels, who's 6'9", Edwards, who's 6'4", Gobert, who's 7'1", and Conley, only 6 feet. But then again, you have Reed, the 6-man, come in. He's 6'9". So they've got a big ball club. And boy, those guys was playing the heck out of some defense. They're rallying from down about 20 points in the third quarter to come in and win it by 8. So everybody's talking about this now, how they historically came back. Matter of fact, I think it's a record. They set a record as far as the largest deficit in a game 7 in the playoffs to come from behind and win. So who's next for Minnesota? It doesn't get any easier. They'll be playing against the Dallas Mavericks. And boy, you know, that's another outstanding, great ball club. So who do you think is going to be the NBA champion out of this bunch? Is it going to be the Indiana Pacers or the Boston Celtics? Or is it going to be Minnesota Timberwolves or the Dallas Mavericks? Only one way to find out, folks. Tune in, get your beer, your soda pop, your popcorn, whatever you're going to do, and let's stay tuned in. Let's get fired up. Let's get excited about this because it is the NBA, National Basketball Association. Robert Wilkins, a.k.a. Basketball Talk. See you next time.